How are we doing, everybody? Welcome into the SFS channel here. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and here we're looking towards Week 9 of fantasy football. We do have a special Halloween game here between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns to take care of for Week 8 still. But like I said, we're taking a look forward here to some early Week 9 waiver wire candidates to add to your rosters and hopefully make a contribution to your team. So by all means, if you have questions about roster moves that you're looking to make, whether that's what player you're dropping for one of these options, if you should make that move, all that stuff is welcome in the comment section below. I'll get back to as many of you as I possibly can. And we've also got the community Discord server in the description of today's video for question asking and answering here from myself. So take advantage of those features, those platforms. Let me know how you did in your leagues this week, and let's dive on into today's episode. All right, I'm not going to BS you all. If I'm being entirely honest, I feel like we're starting to get, if maybe we've already crossed that road, but you never know what types of injuries and whatnot are going to take place here. But I feel like we've kind of crossed paths with the part in the season where the waiver wire is now more so a tool for deeper leagues. And what I mean by that is there aren't many season-changing pickups left out there at this point in the season. So I think last week, in terms of having a groundbreaking trade, an injury situation between Christian McCaffrey becoming a 49er as we entered into last week's game to an extent, and then having the whole Chuba Hubbard, Deontay Foreman situation a week and a half ago or so, and now that obviously coming to light here, I think that might have been kind of the last humongous stop we had in the road. There is not a name that feels super momentous to that extent left out there. So we will start with our must-own running backs for this week, or must-add running backs rather, for Week 9 fantasy football, starting with Latavius Murray of the Denver Broncos. Now, Murray's rostered in 40% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. That's the platform I use as a metric to take a look at rostership percentages. I feel that their numbers are a bit more accurate in terms of what things should be like, as opposed to ESPN. The typical trend I've talked about here in videos is that ESPN rostership tends to be a bit lower. I don't know if that's just because there's more smaller leagues or what the case is there, but I do feel that the 40% rostership number is a somewhat fair metric to use to judge this. And for Murray, it's a simple situation of he has continued to have a running back split committee here with Melvin Gordon, and that's giving him some inevitable value at the end of the day. So for both of these players, they're essentially looking to find the end zone, looking to score touchdowns, and if that's the case, they're going to give you 10 plus points and maybe be a low-end RB2 to a flex level candidate for your leagues, especially in standard formats. Latavius Murray can find a really nice niche for deeper lineups, 12 plus man format leagues in that circumstance. So he actually outrushed Melvin Gordon this week. He went 14 carries for 46 yards again and that touchdown, and Gordon was 9 for 29 and his own. So basically, like I said, it's going to be not necessarily a clear-cut true workhorse for this offense. It is more so a split backfield. I shouldn't have really said a committee, because a committee is something I think of as 3+ players. But what you do have here again is a circumstance where it is a split offense and not everyone is getting all the looks. So there is still fantasy value to be had here. There is just kind of limitations to what exactly he can be. Kenyan Drake at 31% rostership here. Did not think I'd be talking about him again so quickly after the emergence of Gus Bus Edwards back off of the injured reserve. However, unfortunately, Gus sustained a hamstring injury, and while he was extremely effective in his early time with the Ravens this past Thursday night, it looks like he has the potential to maybe miss some time here. You've also got the factor of Baltimore. This is Week 9 we're entering into. Baltimore has a Week 10 bye, so while they are in a long week, if they decide that they want to shut Gus down for a week and really get him 100% ready for that Week 11 game, these are all things to kind of think about in terms of the coaching staff's thought process on how to handle and manage this injury. So what you could see here is the potential for Kenyan Drake to be a starter in Week 9, or at least, even if Gus is active, see an increased level of work, because what we know about running backs is when they're dealing with some of these nagging issues, they tend to give more work to the backup and try and keep their carry count, this being the starter, the injured player in this scenario, Gus Edwards, a little bit lighter to, not resustain or progress and further make that injury more problematic. So for Kenyan Drake here, I do have my eye on him. Drake was 7 for 62 and a touchdown this Thursday. Again, very, very nice stuff in the post-Edwards injury circumstance here. So we saw exactly what he could do in a similar situation with J.K. Dobbins the week before Edwards returned. This is a capable player that can do some stuff on the ground for this team. And, the Ravens don't throw the ball that much to the running backs, but he can certainly affect the game in that way as well, should he be used in that fashion. Now, Isiah Pacheco here, his actual rostership has declined about 20% here in the last week from the last time I talked about him. that's because he's on a week 8 bye. So a lot of the shallower leagues around, the fantasy community are not going to want to roster him through that bye week because if we're being completely honest, like I said, these are our deeper league contributors. And for those shallower teams, you don't want to waste a bench spot in a bye week on a running back that, yes, is, on paper the theoretical starter for this team, but isn't really giving supreme lineup value to your roster. So for Pacheco, what it is a player that when he gets opportunities is very effective with the ball in his hands. He is very capable of making things happen and being an efficient rusher on the ground. But this offense is certainly a committee. There's no one in this offense consistently getting 15-plus touches per game. CEH has seen his workload deteriorate here as Pacheco's has increased. Jerick McKinnon has continued to be a staple in the receiving game for this team. So there are various elements of usage for all of these players. Again, though, Pacheco is a guy who is the quote-unquote starter for this team. So that carries weight to an extent. You're playing in a high-power offense, and that, circumstance gives you the opportunity to put up solid, flex to fringe RB2 numbers in any given week. It's just extremely difficult to predict and project when that's actually going to be the case. Kyren Williams here up at 45%. So coming out of his bye week in week 8 here, he was not available for his team. However, you do have a situation where there's been a lot of hinting and a lot of, questioning as to what's going to exactly happen with this backfield when Williams returns here. And a lot of the rumors and messaging around that circumstance has been positive. There's a lot of optimism that Kyren's going to see a high level of opportunity and work for this backfield. And at the end of the day, I think that, this is a skillful player. I had moderate levels of respect for him coming out of Notre Dame in the draft class this year. He's a skillful pass-catching running back. Not the biggest guy in the world, definitely not someone I view as a workhorse running back. His testing metrics in terms of his open field speed were pretty poor. His 40-yard dash was quite underwhelming. I believe it was 4.73 if I remember correctly. So he's got limitations athletically in terms of just his overall explosiveness and playmaking ability. But like I said, he is a skillful player. So if he gets out here, he gets the opportunity. You've got Cam Akers in the trade block scenario. I guess we'll find out about that within the next 24 to 48 hours here as the trade deadline passes for the National Football League. But there's a lot of stuff to take a look at, a lot of stuff to consider here. And again, if you're getting a running back that right now you can stash in your injured reserve, the 21-day practice window has been open for him though, so his return could be right around the corner. If you're needy for some RB help, or if you just got a deeper bench and want to stash some opportunities on the bottom of your roster for going forward, by all means, take advantage of it. This was a extremely heavy running back committee in week 8 though, with a very unfortunate fantasy breakdown of touches. So keep an eye on that though. This is again a player who could make things happen though. Romeo Doubs at 46% rostership here. I'm surprised to have him on the list this week. I did not think he'd be able to go out there and produce against Buffalo, but all those receivers are dropping like flies. You had Romeo score the most impressive touchdown of the day by a Packer on a contested 19-yard touchdown grab down the right sideline. And actually, you know what? Samori Toure made a pretty good catch as well, so maybe I shouldn't just be so quick to say it was the most impressive touchdown reception. But at the end of the day, he did only have 4 receptions on the 7 targets here for 62 yards and a touchdown. So it's not like he's being this game-changing, dominating wide receiver, but I do think that you're again seeing flashes of why he can be the wide receiver one in this offense. There was no Lazard though. Christian Watson got injured within the first few plays of the game. It's not a perfect thing here, but what this player is a flex-worthy candidate that can give you potentially a top leading level of opportunities from Aaron Rodgers in the pass game on a per-game basis. And what he does have is really good streaming value this week. They've got the Lions at Detroit, so one of the worst defenses in the entire league here. You're going to have the opportunity to stream Doubs or potentially another Packers receiver, depending on health and status of those guys. There's no Randall Cobb in that game as well. So a lot of stuff to take advantage of here and a lot of stuff to consider for your teams. But once again, Doubs showed some flashes of potential breakout ability. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition, but I did like what I saw late from this Packers offense for what that's worth. Kadarius Toney here at 57%. Now, this is super interesting to me. I think that this is the highest ceiling player of the week here. He's at 57% because you had the window of opportunity to add him and bench stash him in the pre-week 8 slate. So personally, for me in my leagues, I've already taken advantage of all the available Kadarius Toney shares. So last week I went out and picked him up and stashed him on the bottom of my bench, but some circumstances like dynasty leagues and whatnot, he wasn't available. So for, again, what it's worth, he's 57% rostered on Yahoo. So about 43% of leagues you'll be able to actually take advantage of him here. Those that didn't because of a shallower roster or because he was on bye week last week, he's learning a new playbook. I'm expecting we're going to have to be somewhat patient with him here. I don't think he's going to get fully unlocked here in week 9, but maybe by week 10 or 11, he's out there and fully contributing for this team. In my opinion, and we literally have no analytical data that's meaningful or relevant for the 2022 season to look at. So all of this is purely based around the prospective player that we looked at, A, with his time at Florida, and B, in his rookie season where he had a 189-yard game for the Giants. We have to just watch the tape because, again, the data, the analytics, the metrics for him here literally mean next to nothing because he has not produced or contributed to the Giants basically all season long. So for me, I think he's the most explosive and dynamic playmaker on this roster. That does not mean I think he's the best player, but I do think he has the highest ceiling of any of the wide receivers in this offense if he truly gets unlocked. And if there's anyone that can go out there and do that, I would bet on Andy Reid to take fullest advantage of what Kadarius Toney can be for this Chiefs football team. Next up, Rondale Moore of the Arizona Cardinals here. Now, he's playing that slot role for this team, kind of the, I don't want to call him a gadget player, but he's done some unique things for this offense. And I think that he has kind of settled into that position for this team here at 35% rostership. He caught 7 of his 8 targets this week for 92 yards and a touchdown. After the catch, he's incredibly explosive and tough to really get your hands on. It's not that he's a tough tackle, but he's kind of a slippery player. So what we saw in that was a 38-yard score. He kind of just caught the ball and then started moving, and he's like a little human joystick, kind of like Tariq Cohen, if you remember him from a few years ago. So different positions, but both had good receiving skill sets and were just a really difficult grab in the open field. So for Rondale, if he's going to continue getting targets like this in the slot for Kyler Murray-led offense, I will continue to take advantage of that in TPR formats. He's a solid flex play, and I think that right now it's safe to say that at the wide receiver position in these negative game scripts that Arizona tends to have here this season against tougher opponents, he's a viable starter because they're going to need to pass the ball, and he's kind of a safety blanket for him. He's got him, Zach Ertz, DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson is still kind of getting worked in here. So for now, I like the role that Moore fills in for this offense. Treylon Burks here, potential for him to return this week at 17% rostership. He has been on IR with a toe injury for some time now, but this is a really, really impressive rookie player with high draft capital. If he's on the field, they want to get him the ball. The problem here is A, Tennessee's offense in the passing game has just been very poor this season, and B, you've also got a scenario where you're looking at a player who has yet to officially break out. So this is definitely a deeper roster addition here. You're looking for a player that is going to contribute down the stretch potentially. If you think back to A.J. Brown's rookie season, it was the second half of the year that he broke out. That was a lot of players' comps for Treylon Burks here. I think that, it's a little bit much to expect him to go for, after missing all these games with injury and whatnot, to have the 1,000-yard rookie season that A.J. Brown had. But very talented player. He's a skillful playmaker, and he can get open. And obviously, after the catches where he kind of prides himself as well at being a really tough tackle and a menace out in space. So for him, it's about health. It's about the overall offense's ability to support his fantasy success. Like I said, this is a deeper 12 to 14-man addition here, or you've got yourself a 10-man format with a really deep bench. So I'm not always going to be, on board with you guys adding Treylon Burks. Let me know your circumstances and situations in the comment section below. But at the end of the day, what this is a super high upside play, but the floor, as well as I've tried to allude to here, is quite low as well for the moment. Let's move into some other position players now. So Greg Dulcich here of the Denver Broncos has completely made the world forget who Albert O is. That's a joke. But basically here, this is the tight end one for this team. Now, you're looking at a situation where Greg Dulcich is asserting himself as an arguable tight end one for fantasy football, and we love all that. He's been impressive to this point, especially here as he's continued to kind of surge forward in his role in this offense and quote-unquote break out for this offense. So in London, he had an 80% catch rate, catching 4 or 5 passes for 87 yards. And, if he continues to do that, you're looking at, again, a low-end tight end 1 and 12-team format. So for teams out there that are having their tight end struggle and are looking for an alternative option to play at the position. This rookie is out there and he is making things happen. His tape at UCLA was pretty nice. I liked what I saw there. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife at the tight end position, meaning that he kind of does everything at a solid level, and that helps him get on the field a lot. So we've seen that kind of play out here and contribute to his playing time and success in fantasy. He's got 3 double-digit scoring games here for fantasy scoring and PPR. So all that stuff is nice. He's not going to change your world per se, and Denver is on a week 9 bye here, so you can't take advantage of him right away. But I'm excited about Denver on the other side of this bye. I think that they're still fatally flawed as an offense, but I do think that there were some real positives late in that London game. And I think that if you take that into a bye with the positive momentum and the extra, additional time to critique and work on your overall schematic process, I'm hoping that this can, kind of be the turning point for the Broncos offense this season. And they're never going to be elite this season, but if they can just be average or slightly above that level, I think that would go a long way for a lot of fantasy managers of Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Russell Wilson, who is seeing more and more waiver wire opportunities by the day here, just by the frustration that managers are having with him in those lower level formats. So a lot of stuff to digest with this offense here. Again, they are on week 9 bye, but Dulcich is certainly a player that you can look to as, again, a fringe tight end 1 in PPR formats here, week 10 and beyond. Josh Palmer, this is a streamer for week 9. So at 24% rostership, you've got no Mike Williams out there. There is 75+% of opportunity to have the wide receiver 2 for a Justin Herbert-led offense on your fantasy roster. So plain and simple, why not take advantage of that? I think this is a situation where you've got a week 9 game against the Atlanta Falcons. You saw what the Panthers did to them. PJ Walker had one of the throws of the year. Pat Mahomes said it himself on a Hail Mary type situation to DJ Moore. Should have won that game. Screw you, Eddie Pinheiro. You've been, at times, I've cheered for Eddie Pinheiro's downfall as a member of the Bears, as a Packer fan here, of course. And then now it's sad because I want these teams that are struggling and fighting for wins. What a story it would be if PJ Walker led the Panthers to the number 1 seed in the NFC South, and then Pinheiro just fumbles the bag. Part of it, I get it, was DJ Moore's fault for taking his helmet off. But besides the point, the case I'm trying to make here is that this Falcons secondary is barbecue chicken, and Josh Palmer is a very, very solid number 3 receiver for this Chargers team, and when he slotted into that number 2 role, I do think that there's some potential struggle of overlap between the role that Palmer played when Allen was out versus the role he'll play now with Allen in and Williams out. That'll be interesting to look at here, but at the end of the day, very talented player, underrated for sure, catching passes from Justin Herbert in a juicy matchup with this team coming off a bye week. So we'll see. Hopefully they come in prepared, ready to play. This is a potential flex level player, though, for this week. Someone to keep your eye on that may make my top 30 receivers of the week. Marcus Mariota at 26% here. He is playing on the other side of that Chargers matchup. This is a perfect quarterback streamer. You've got yourself a guy that runs the football. He has 4 occurrences this season of running the football for 40 yards or more. All 4 of those games, he has 17 or more fantasy points. So if you just need competence at the position here, play Marcus Mariota. I think this is a situation where he can go out there and make some things happen. Now, this week, he finally got Kyle Pitts going. I don't think that was a Marcus Mariota thing. Like, one of the biggest plays of the game was a smoke screen, which is literally snap the ball, turn at the line of scrimmage, and just wait for it. And Marcus hit him on a check down, and Kyle Pitts took off and ran for like 30, 35 plus yards. So it actually might have been further than that. He started at midfield and got down in the red zone. So just basically get the ball to your playmakers. I wish they would do that more this season. At the end of the day, this is not a team though that wants to air the ball out, and this is a fantasy football take for Marcus Mariota. So it will help him if he distributes to Drake London and Kyle Pitts a bit more, but at the end of the day, what you're more so looking for is just overall rushing opportunity and just having competence offensively. The Chargers defense is kind of wishy-washy in the middle of the road right now. Maybe they came off a bye week here and, up their level of play, but at the same time here, I would not be surprised if they continue to have struggles that they've had all year. Justin Fields at 41% here. He is also a guy who has had 4 impressive streaks, or it isn't really a streak here, or multiple streaks. It is one singular streak of 4 games of 16 plus points. He has had 8 or more rushing attempts in every game this season, and the passing game is not good right now, but it is getting better, and that is encouraging. The way that he's throwing the ball downfield, staying poised in the pocket. This week, he was under pressure at times, but there are also times where he was patient back there, found the open player, made the correct read, and I was impressed with Fields and what I saw at the end of the day. So props to him. I tip my cap to you. Justin Fields. I'm impressed with what I saw. And again, if you're looking for a Week 9 streamer, I would look towards Justin Fields if Mariota is not available. And then my defensive stream of the week is the Vikings defense at 20% rostership, so 80% of you guys can go take advantage of this. The reason I like the Vikings is they have the Commanders this week. Taylor Heineke's been playing pretty solid football here, picked up his second straight win. However, this is a very good Minnesota Vikings pass rush, and what the Commanders do not do well is protect the passer. If they're getting pressure, sacks, forcing the issue defensively, Heineke's going to make mistakes. He might make an errant throw. He might lose a fumble. There are opportunities for takeaways, sacks, and low levels of offensive production that will limit the overall hurt that this defense puts on you if you're in one of the leagues where yardage deteriorates the points, or points scored by the opponent deteriorates the points. So Vikings defense is where I'm looking for this week as a highly and widely available defense that I think can make a big impact here. So there you guys have it. A couple other names here. I'll toss out Deion Jackson here as well as a potential pickup. Naheem Hines' rostership is iffy as well, depending on what format you're playing on and what league space. But JT rolled up his ankle again, or at least if he didn't roll it up, he got it retaped mid-game. That's an issue that we're monitoring here, so if there's potentially something going on there, may want to look there. I'm not tossing him officially in this video for the simple fact that JT could still play this week and ended up going out there and putting up 76 yards rushing on 16 carries. He's not giving us what we want to see right now, but at the end of the day, keep your eye on Deion Jackson and some of those other running backs that got nicked up this week. Just keep your eye out for their handcuff. There might be a circumstance there. Chuba Hubbard as well, coming off of being out this week. I do think there's an opportunity for him to come back and surprise a lot of people. I don't think it's going to be 100% Deontay Foreman and no one else. So I'm keeping my eye on Chuba, at least to an extent here, picking him up in those deeper formats and allowing myself to have that option because, again, he was the official starter pre-injury there to his ankle. So keep your eye out for all this stuff. I will see you guys in a future episode. As always, subscribe if you're new around here. Let me know your questions down in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.